about some exciting stuff on Facebook. I'm on Facebook Live as well. I look much tanner on Facebook than on Instagram, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but I will get over that. Let me just go ahead and share this in my Side Hustle pop-up group, which I encourage you all to join if you haven't already. We're doing lots of fun things in there. It's a really great group of people. And then we're going to talk today about the 3 very radical changes I had to make to my life to get my business to where it is now, to get it to the 6-figure mark. And these things were not all easy. Actually, a lot of them were not easy, but they were not things that were obvious to me, you know, when I started. And so that's why I really want to share them with you in case you're feeling like you want to see massive growth, you want to see a lot of change, you want to see a lot of momentum, but you're not quite doing that yet. And this might be maybe one or all of these could be things that could kickstart you in that direction. So let me just go ahead and share this. And before we dive into all of that, I also want to make sure that you all know that the very exciting news is that today my signature program, Scale Your Side Hustle, opened up for the last time that I ever have planned. So that's kind of a bittersweet moment for me because I love this program more than pretty much anything. So it's going to be hard, but I am very, very excited and enthusiastic about this last cohort of it. And so if you have had your eye on Scale Your Side Hustle for months, maybe even years, then that is something you're going to want to look into. And I highly encourage you to join. It's a really transformative program. And even if this is just your first time hearing about it, if you have a side hustle that you want to do well with and you really want to make, you know, something powerful out of it, then this is the best program to do it. It's truly a handbook to get your side hustle to a profitable place, to get it to be making around as much as your 9-to-5 job and, you know, allow you to even leave that as well. So let me just go ahead and write that on Facebook and we will get going. They close in just 3 days though. So if you are considering this at all, then I highly encourage you to join. Okay. Without further ado, now we are going to get into today's topic, which are 3 radical changes I had to make for my life. And so if you're watching this, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Go ahead and type the place that you live, or if you're watching the replay, go ahead and please type replay so that I can give you a little shout out or afterward. Let me just take a quick sip of water. Hey, Heidi. Alrighty, here we go. So we're going to talk about 3 radical changes I had to make to my life in order to get my side hustle up and going, to get it profitable, and to get it to make more than my 9-to-5 job. And then, of course, to leave my 9-to-5 job and hit 6 figures. Let me go ahead and write it here as well on Instagram. Okay. And let me know if you guys have made any changes in your life. Let me know if any of these resonate with you and so on. Welcome back. Oops, just one second. We're going to do this one more time. Hey, you guys. Awesome. Oops, I don't want that. Okay. Welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I'm your host, Leah, and every Monday we come to you with a weekly episode of this podcast live on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to tune in live, like many of you are now, hey, you guys, let me know where you're joining from. Then you can always come to my Facebook page or my Instagram page, which is Facebook at Urban20. Wait, it's Instagram, just Urban20something. And we will be here live. And I love doing them with you live because I love answering your guys' questions and hearing what you are up to and how these tips resonate with you and your business, your journey, etc. And today I have a topic I'm really excited to share with you because we're going to talk about 3 radical changes I had to make to my life, not just my business, but my life in order to hit 6 figures in business. And looking back to the girl I was before I started this and the things that I did and the way that I acted, I really know how different I am now and how much a lot of these would have scared me. And I honestly never would have thought that these were changes I would have made in my life or that I would have been okay with. And so this is going to be a pretty vulnerable episode because These things really had to make me redefine my own values and my own faith in myself. They took a lot of risk and they took a lot of fear. And so I'm really grateful that I did all of these, obviously, because they ended up where I am now. But at the time, they weren't all that easy or obvious to do because I had never done them and I was scared. Before we dive into that, I just want to say I hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. The time of this recording is Monday, July 8th. So I'm sure everyone is just getting back in the flow of life. I personally had my wedding shower this weekend, which was such a blessing. I can't believe I'm getting married in less than 3 months. I love you to my fiance if he's watching this. And if you guys ever want to follow more behind the scenes of our wedding or see pictures from our wedding shower, you can always follow me on Instagram. It's just urban20something, and there's photos and behind the scenes and everything else like that. And then the other thing I want to share is that this week, the doors to my signature program, Scale Your Side Hustle, are open. And you guys, this is the last time we have planned to run this program. So that's a really big deal. I ran this program several times. I have seen more success from my clients through this program than I have seen people from many other programs that they've gone through. It is a true roadmap to get you from starting a side hustle to scaling it, to understanding how to do it around your 9-to-5 job, to getting it profitable, and then eventually leaving. And the reason I created Scale Your Side Hustle was because for me, I know when I got the idea of wanting to leave my 9-to-5 job and work for myself, you know, it sounded so great, but I had no clue how to even begin to make it happen. It was like a completely foreign concept for me. I did not have a yellow brick road on my way to Oz. I had to, you know, weed whack on the trail there. And so I wanted to make a roadmap for other people because I knew that I couldn't be alone in wanting to have done this. So if you are interested in Scale Your Side Hustle, then you can find it on my website. You can find it right in the comments here on Facebook. And I'm happy to answer more questions about it. But I do want to talk about the radical changes I had to make in my life without further ado in order to get my business up to 6 figures. Hey, Crystal. Happy Monday. I hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend with your sweet daughter. Would love to hear how you're doing today. Alrighty, let's get into it, you guys. So when it comes to your goals and knowing that you want to hit 6 figures, leave your day job, hire a team, whatever your next business step is, a lot of times without consciously realizing it, we are doing so by trying to ramp up what we've done in the past. But as we all know, what has gotten you here will not get you there. And so if you continue doing the things that have gotten you to this point, you're just going to continue to either stay stuck or get the same results. And if you're watching this, my guess is that you're ready for something bigger, something better, something new, something next. And that takes a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking. And it really does sometimes mean transforming who you are and what you believe and the way you act. So one of the things that I really had to get honest with myself about, you know, I would watch all these other entrepreneurs that looked like they were taking off and that looked like they were making lots of money. And I would get really sad that I wasn't like that. And I would promise myself that I would be so committed to being successful that I would have the self-discipline to do it. And now looking back, that just wasn't enough. You know, I needed guidance. I needed people to hold me accountable, and I needed kind of an inside scoop and something like that. And so I really started thinking about both the internal and external changes I need to make. So let's start with the biggest internal change I made. And just to give you a little bit of context, here's what my life was like at the time. I was working at a nonprofit here in New York City where I live, and I really loved this nonprofit, but it was somewhat, you know, near the election, the crazy election that happened in 2016. And so no matter which side of the aisle you fall on, I think everyone agrees that it was just a very intense time. People were very either angry or very, you know, secretive or deceptive. And there was just like a tough energy. It felt very stressful. The news always seemed like there was something alarming happening. It always seemed like something was an emergency. It was just not a very fun time to be really involved in politics. And so, but my job kind of had me be very involved in politics because I worked at a nonprofit. So this stuff, it was our job to read the New York Times every day. And it was our job to understand how policies were being affected, what might be changing and how that might be affecting certain demographics of people, particularly if we were working with that demographic of people. And this work was rewarding, but eventually, you know, I had to step back and realize that it was very emotionally exhausting and it was very tiring. And just to be clear, leading up to that election, I was like a news junkie. I loved reading the New York Times every day. I could read it for hours every day. And I loved reading Twitter and I loved listening to the podcasts. I mean, I was so into it. It was so interesting to me. And I still do like politics to this day. But I'll never forget one day I was coming up the subway that I live near, and I was coming up the escalator, and I was listening to one of my favorite books, the one that changed my life the most. It's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. I talk about it all the time. And this was a huge turning point in my business when I read this book for so many reasons. And I've talked about that on a whole other podcast episode where I just talk about my biggest takeaways from the book. But one of the things at this time that hit me was when he talked about how just about how much our focus matters and how much our mindset matters. And he said, you cannot get rich if you're always focusing on thoughts of poverty. You cannot get, you know, this happens with anything. You cannot get thin if you're always focusing on thoughts of things that aren't healthy. You cannot get a lot of savings if you're always focused on debt. Your focus and what you allow to fill your head and your thoughts will be what your actions gravitate to. Your thoughts come first and your actions follow suit. So even if you feel like you're being responsible in thinking a lot about debt or financial risk or in my case, you know, poverty and what was going on politically, you have to really recognize the toll that might be taking on your emotional state and on the capabilities that you have to take action toward what you want, because instead you'll start taking action toward the things that you don't want, toward the things that you're afraid of, towards the things that are negative. So long story short, this point that I'm trying to make, one of the most radical things I did in order to get to six figures was I completely stopped reading the news. And this might sound a little bit crazy. And I have to say, I even had heard of other entrepreneurs doing the same thing beforehand. And I remember thinking how naive of them, or just how convenient to be so checked out from what's going on. Do you know what I mean? I really thought that it was just a way to be in denial or avoid politics and a way to kind of dismiss your own like civic duty of understanding what's going on in this country. So I did not really think highly of it. I really thought it was kind of a cop-out. And I really had to drop that judgment and just get curious about how I could bring myself into a more positive, a more optimistic, and a more hopeful state of mind. Because if you are trying to build a business, if you are trying to build wealth, if you are trying to do anything big and positive or reach any big goal, you need all the belief behind the fact that that's going to happen. And your belief is going to be shaken the most when you are reading stories of people whose dreams aren't coming true, or whose situations aren't going so well, or whose fears did come to fruition. And again, I'm not trying to be insensitive and say that we should ignore those people. Absolutely not. But the way I had to eventually come to terms with my choice was that at this point in time, the best thing I could do for the causes I cared about and those that were being politically oppressed would be to make the most of myself and my business so that I could have the influence and the finances to actually impact people in a way that could make a difference, rather than sitting at my desk, reading the New York Times, putting myself in a depressed state of mind or a concerned state of mind or a fearful state of mind or a stressed state, well, I already said stress, but just like a stressful, heavy place, which does not inspire action. You know, I started realizing that when I would read the news a lot and I would get concerned or I would get sad or I would get frantic, I wasn't all that psyched about working, or even if I was, I just felt a bit heavier. And so you might not see this connection right away. And I want you to really be curious about this here, because you might not be like, oh, well, I read the news and then I still go work and it's fine, just like every other day. That might be true. But the point is, you have to control your focus. And these ways in which the doubt and stress and chaos of politics or of poverty or of any reporting of negativity can seep into your subconscious is far more powerful than you realize. And, you know, the truth is, I wanted to build a business based on optimism. I wanted to build a business based on opportunity and strength. And there is so much strength in the world. There are so many happy endings. There are so many people achieving their dreams. They're just not on the news a lot. We all know this. The news exploits bad situations, but it's a small representation of how many great things actually are going on. So I needed to saturate my mind with the positivity and the encouragement and the optimism that would support the mindset to get me to a place that would carry my business to its next level. Does that make sense? So I'm just giving you this justification and background for why I decided to stop reading the news. And I hope that you can take this concept and think about places in your life where you might be allowing doubt, fear, insecurity, unhappiness, disbelief, any other type of emotions that could damper your motivation, your dreams, your belief in yourself, and really ask yourself how you can cut them out. And again, I never would have pictured that I would just stop reading the news after years of loving it and even working in policy and working in nonprofit and working in the law, and I'm feeling really involved in it. But it's what I realized I had to do, and I can look back and now say it was one of the best decisions I could have made for myself, both for my business and for my own mental health. I no longer felt, this daily pressure or this stress or this sadness or this concern or this fear. I realized that the best thing I could do for the causes I care about would be to take care of myself first, get myself to a place where impact and finances were actually available to me, and make a change on that level. Because otherwise, I hate to break it to you, you can wear a badge of honor about watching the news as much as you want in your life. But if you are just sitting there consuming it and not actually taking action to a place where you could influence it, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're actually hurting your emotional state, and you're not doing the rest of the world any favors either. So that's a little bit blunt. I know all three of these are kind of meant to ruffle some feathers. I'm not saying that you need to do all of these, but you need to get honest with yourself about what needs to change. And you might be thinking, Leah, I don't want to make these dramatic of changes, but then that tells me that you're okay with your life staying the same. So let's move on to the second point. Let me take a sip of water. Okay, the second thing, this is very vulnerable for me because this was probably the hardest thing. The second thing I had to change in order to get to my six-figure business about myself completely was that at one point in the earlier days when I was really trying to ramp it up, I decided that I was going to allow myself to not have to pay off my credit card in full every single month for a little while. And that didn't mean that I wanted to. That didn't mean that I wouldn't pay it off if I couldn't. That didn't mean that it was a plan to live off credit card debt. It was nothing like that. But what it did mean was that I looked at the type of business I wanted to build. I looked at the type of people that were able to mentor me or to teach me or to really guide me through this or coach me. And I looked at the kind of businesses that I admired. And, I was really all in at that point. And I decided that I was not going to half-ass this. I decided I was not going to have a mediocre business or mediocre website or mediocre branding, and that I was not going to know mediocre skills about online business. I've really become one of the experts in it. I know more about it than most people. And that's because, and this was by intention. I decided that I was going to be one of the best. I was not going to just sort of do this. And so that meant that I was going to need to invest in myself. I was going to have a professional website. I was going to have professional branding. I was going to take accelerated, advanced, and elite courses, programs, etc., so that I could learn from the best and know the best and be able to serve my clients the best. And all of that mentality, all of that sort of higher level teaching and business product comes with an equally hefty price tag. So I had to make the decision. Am I going to live and invest in my business within the means that I have now? Or am I going to invest in my business from the place that I want to be? And I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be one of the best. I knew that I wasn't going to settle for a mediocre half-assed business or anything like that. I also knew I wasn't going to settle for waiting for years for it to become good. And because of that, I needed to find the financial resources to get myself there. So for a little while, I had to be okay with the potential of not always paying my credit card off in full on time because I was investing in these bigger programs. Now, a few things. I am not giving you a recommendation to go into credit card debt at all right now. That is not where this is coming from. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not a certified financial planner, and you need to make your own financial decisions. What I'm trying to do is share with you my rationale, something that worked for me, and something that worked for me that was hugely uncomfortable for me. Up until that point, I had kind of worn a badge of honor about the fact that I had never missed a credit card payment in my life. My credit card, score was pristine. I was from an accountant family. My dad was an accountant, so I really knew that credit cards were something that you could take advantage of, but only if you pay them off in full. And I was really psyched about the fact that I did that all. So going from the place of not really having any money as a young 20-something, but feeling really proud about this one thing, like this was my biggest sense of worth within my own finances, was that I was really responsible with my credit cards. That was terrifying because it made me have to let go of something that I always felt was part of my identity. I had to let go of the one thing I felt were really going right with my finances, because remember, I was working as a paralegal. I was not making any money, so I wasn't saving that much, but this was my one thing. You know what I mean? Like, this was the thing that I always took home as saying, I am without a doubt responsible financially because this is my one thing. So letting go of that, I had to really do a lot of mental work around the fact that I needed to find my own self-worth and my own pride and my own justification for being responsible within myself, other than what I had been doing my whole life. And, now looking back, I know that this was the best decision I ever could have made. I have a lot of gratitude for credit cards now. I view it completely differently because I did want to quit my job. I did want to get my income up. I wanted to be one of the best in this industry. And this was the only way I could think of to do it. And I did it. And now I do have my 6-figure business. And now my life is totally transformed. So I am very grateful for how it turned out. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't make those decisions. There are, I guess, other ways I could have considered. I did consider going to a bank for a loan, but I didn't want to do that. And I also considered, just going slower, but I also didn't want to do that. So this was my choice, and it was the right choice for me. So I just encourage you to ask yourself, are your choices in alignment with who you want to end up as, not who you are now? That's what really struck me about this whole thing, is that I had been listening to the personal finance advice of, 40 and 50 somethings by reading things like The Millionaire Next Door, or like Dave Ramsey. And I had been automating my savings and paying off my credit cards on time and saving, 20% of my income and packing lunches. Like, I was doing all those right things. And do you know where I was? Exactly where I had started up years ago. I was still making an entry-level salary. I still didn't have much savings. I still didn't have an unlimited income amount. And I still didn't even like my job to begin with. So I was kind of fed up with the advice of these antiquated personal finance regulations. And again, this is not a piece of advice to go into credit card debt, but ask yourself, if you have been taking advice of people that you really, really trust and you are not in a situation that you want to be, then you might need to change the way that you're living, and you might need to question the advice you have. And there's no one perfect way to make any goal happen, as we all know. There is no reason to say that if I had made a different decision, maybe I still could have ended up here. I don't want to say that this was the only way. We all have different paths, and that's fine. But this ended up being mine, and I want you to ask yourself how bad you want yours and what you're really willing to let go of in order to get there. And what you're really willing to, what fears you're really willing to look in the face to get there. I thought that if I didn't pay off my credit card in full 1 month, that I was going to have my credit score drop, that I'd never be able to buy a home, that I would be one of those families on the news that was overindulgent. Those were all these fears coming to me. And when it happened, the 1 month, I didn't pay it back in full, guess what happened? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. I had to pay a couple $100 in interest, and that wasn't all that fun. But, I kind of take that back. It really wasn't a problem. I was grateful to pay it because it allowed me to get further than I could have gotten if I hadn't have done that. So for me, that investment or that interest was worth it. And I know that the personal finance experts might be hearing this and cringing, but again, everyone's path is different. I had followed the the conventional personal finance advice and was not where I wanted to be. So I had to shake it up, and it worked for me. And I encourage you to ask yourself, what can you let go of? What fears are holding you back? And how can you really look them in the eye and think about what actually will happen if you do that? Are they really going to be as bad as you think they are? My guess is that they're not. There's almost no choice that can't be undone. There's almost no decision that can't be reversed. There's almost no financial situation you could get into or mistake that you can't get out of. And you really have to ask yourself, what's the most important thing to you right now? Okay, one more sip of water, and then we'll dive into the last radical change I had to make. Oh, and I just want to say one more thing about my credit card situation, because I also think it's important. I have to say, even though I have always really viewed myself as very self-disciplined and, really do stick to the goals that I make for myself, there was a shift in my energy when I made that level of commitment to myself and my business. I went all in like I never had before. And you might not need to do what I did in order to go all in, but you also might be wondering why things aren't moving for you as quickly as you want them to. And my guess is that you're not going as all in as you wanted to. For me proving to myself that I was letting go of my old financial programming to make room for the new future I was about to create, that's going all in. Saying that you're going to build a side hustle with no clear plan or no sacrifice or no just total faith in yourself, that is not going all in. And I think the reason I was able to make that decision, even though it was uncomfortable, is because I really believed in myself. And I really ask people, when they come to me and they want to join one of my programs and they're like, oh, I'm just not sure if I should spend the money. That tells me that they don't believe in themselves enough to spend it, because they don't necessarily believe they're going to make it back. That's not going all in either. So I guess the biggest takeaway from this point would be ask yourself where you are not going all in. Okay, the third thing I did, a radical change in my life to really transform this and make everything different, was completely cut out complaining. Now, I am no Mother Teresa. I am not perfect. Yes, I still complain. And especially on this podcast, I really do try to keep it real. I try to be really honest about the behind the scenes and the ebbs and flows of business, because obviously it's not all sunshine and roses. But especially after I read The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, my favorite book once again, I would say that book actually influenced all three of these points. It helped me realize how money is something you can always make back, and you need to have faith in yourself in order to build the life you want. It helps me realize not to read the news, and it helped me realize that I needed to stop complaining. And that's not because things don't go wrong all the time. They do, and that's fine, and you can observe them, and you can have problems in your life, as we all do. But what really changed things for me, what I really realized, is that every time any of us complain about something, or any time any of us blame something, then you take away your own power. And so I'd say I'm not much of a complainer by nature. And, I think I spent the years before that not really complaining about intense stuff. But when you really implement this rule, you'll start noticing complaints that you do in small things day to day that don't really sound like complaints. For example, if you or someone complains about the fact that you weren't able to go to the gym because your meeting at work ran late and therefore you weren't able to make it, then you are blaming your meeting or your job for the fact that you're not, able to be in shape or go to the gym or whatever. If you're complaining that Whole Foods is too expensive and that's why you don't eat organic, then you are putting your own health and your own power to take care of yourself in the hands of a huge corporation. If you are mad at your college because they were so expensive and you have student loans, and you're complaining about the fact that you have student loans and you wish you could not have to pay those every month, then you are giving your college power over your own financial situation. And this might seem a little bit like a stretch, but subconsciously, every time you complain about something, no matter how logical it might sound, your meeting may have run long, and that might be the reason you didn't go to your workout class. But you still can't give away your power to something else about your own health, happiness, or well-being. It is always your responsibility to stay healthy, stay happy, and feel well, and take care of yourself. Always. No one else can do it for you. You can only do it for yourself. And so every time you even subtly blame something or someone else for the reason something in that area is not going the way you want it to, you give away the power that you have to make those things happen. So I had to really cut out all complaints, especially about my business, because the thing with business, especially in the early days, is you are always trying to get in momentum. And for me, once I got in momentum, I'm still riding off that momentum, and it's been over a year. Once you get to that place, then things can really move quickly. But you don't get in momentum if you're focusing on all the small roadblocks. You only get in momentum if you can keep reaching for all the things that are going right and keep reaching for them really quickly. And as you can see from this like kind of metaphor, that's how you'll end up moving really, really, really quickly. But if instead you're sort of moving along and you're focusing on every little bump and roadblock and everything that kind of pushes up against you, it's going to be really hard to get in momentum. So I don't care if you feel like you don't have enough money to invest in a program, but you still want to move forward. I don't care if you feel like you're bad at graphic design. I don't care if you feel like you're busy. I don't care if you feel like you're not going to make it. And I don't say that to be insensitive. I say it because I know you have the power within you right now to do the things that you want to do and to be the person you want to be and to reach the goals that you want to reach. And that's why I'm not going to give power to the things that might seem difficult to you, because the power you have to conquer those things or to make things happen with or in spite of them is so much greater. So I'd rather talk about that. I'd rather talk about how much power you do have, how much flexibility you have, how much freedom you have, how smart you are, how much you have of opportunity in your life. Those are the things that are going to get you in momentum. Those are the things that are true. And those are the things that are more empowering, which only leads you to feel more and more powerful. And if you're hearing this and saying, well, Leah, I know that it might sound easy to ignore the complaints I have in my life, but I do have those. Those are things that are real. Well, there's lots of things that are real out there. There are wars going on out there. I live in New York City and there's crime going on out there. And I don't mean to sound insensitive to it, but you get to choose the facts that you're fixating on. Like, you get to choose what you're fixating upon. I mean, even a simple example, like it's Monday morning here in New York and, everyone's busy always. So let's say you're at a Starbucks line here in the city. And you just get to choose right in that moment. There's two parallel facts. On the one hand, you're probably tired. It's Monday morning. You probably have a big week ahead of you. You might be in a long line. You might not want to be waiting. You might not feel patient. On the other hand, you have a fresh week in front of you of everything that you get to create, do, imagine, be. You are in one of the best cities in the entire world getting to go into a new week. You are standing in a line in a very wealthy, part of the world because you get to have a Britzy coffee that you want to have and you can afford to do so. And you get to enjoy that while you go into this next chapter of the day, week, whatever it is. So you see what I mean? You get to choose at any moment which facts you're focusing on, and complaints, every time you complain or give someone else responsibility for why things aren't going the way you want them to, you slowly but surely chip away at your own power. And let me tell you, to reach these big goals that I know you all have, if you're watching this or listening to this, you need to step into as much power as you can. It's not for the faint of heart, but you can absolutely do it. And so it all starts with just a simple shift in your focus and in your choice of words and in your choice of, I guess, just, power. How can you make yourself powerful as possible so that you can do these big challenges and these big goals and these things that, let's face it, most people never do because they don't think about these kinds of things I just talked about. They don't think about the ways that they can change themselves and their lives in order to step into that new place. And let me tell you, it can be uncomfortable to step into these new things. It can be uncomfortable to let go of things you've done your whole life. And it can be uncomfortable to put yourself out there as you go for these much bigger goals. But it's also uncomfortable living with regret. It's also uncomfortable living with not enough money. It's also uncomfortable being jealous of lifestyles other people have that you feel like you can't, and that's not even true. So you get to choose your discomfort. And I hope that these three radical shifts I made, which the takeaways I want from you are, one, thinking about how you can go all in, how you can be more powerful, and how you can clarify your focus toward what you actually want. I hope that this gives you the power you need for the week to go toward your goals and to make your biggest dreams happen, because they can happen for you. They are there for you. They are yours for the taking. You just need to step more into who you need to be in order to take them. And I can't wait for you to do so. All right, you guys, this was a big one. I just talked a lot. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. And I hope you guys have an amazing week. Here is to your biggest vision. And then also, before we wrap up, I just want to remind you guys that Scale Your Side Hustle is open, and I'm just going to pull it up on Facebook really quick so you guys can check it out. It's an amazing, amazing program, and let's see, let's switch it this way. Here's a little bit about what the program's all about. So Scale Your Side Hustle is designed for you if you either have a side hustle or you know you want one, but those who do best in it typically do have some sort of platform, whether it's having an Instagram feed up and running, or they already have a website, or they have an idea, but they're still just, waiting to get to the point where it's actually profitable and what they want it to be. So if you've got a side hustle, you have probably big dreams, you have a big why, You're really excited about the possibility of changing your financial income and potential. However, your reality isn't quite looking like that yet. You are probably a bit stressed out. You might feel like things aren't really happening for you. You might feel like you're putting all this time and energy into things, but for some reason, things aren't just taking off and you're not sure what you're quite doing wrong. And that's where Scale Your Side Hustle comes in. That's where you get to ignore all of the noise in the exterior about different strategies and tools and ways and must do this and here's a webinar and make $100 million and all of that. Get quiet and follow a step-by-step roadmap to get your side hustle actually profitable. If you show up to Scale Your Side Hustle, you do the calls, you ask questions, you follow the modules, there is no way that your side hustle goals can't come true. I'm that confident in it because I've seen time and time again that people that go through this program, the people that do all the work, they are now the ones that are self-employed. They are now the ones that travel full time. They are now the ones that have passive income funnels. They're now the ones making 5 figures per month. You know, they've done it and it can happen for you too. And you don't have to do this on your own and you don't have to guess. So Scale Your Side Hustle is a 3-month program. And again, it starts next week and we have no plans to run it again. So this is a really big deal, you guys. It's a 3-month program with weekly calls with me. You also have a private group where me and my team are in there every day to answer your questions, look at your website, look at what you're doing. You're totally supported in it. And you get 9 modules as well to really go deep into online business and how to scale whatever it is that you're trying to create. So this is largely based on what I've learned over the years from many, many mentors and teachers and coaches and classes I've taken, as well as my own journey from a simple side hustle, which was a for fun blog, to my now 6-figure business. And I am able to work anywhere in the world now for my business. So I have a few pictures here of where I've worked from the beaches of Mykonos, as well as hotels in Tel Aviv, as well as in Los Angeles and Mexico and Chicago. That I just thought are fun behind the scenes of what my life actually looks like now, because it is so different than you know, how it did just a few years ago when I was in a cubicle, when I was making a entry-level salary and just did not have the lifestyle that I was really dreaming of. And I have a few success stories I wanted to share with you. This first one is from Danielle. Danielle is a travel influencer, and her Instagram, her beautiful Instagram, is called The Wander Lover. Danielle used to work on Wall Street in New York, and she now lives in Bali full time, being a travel influencer and Instagrammer, and like surfing and everything in her life just looks so amazing. I highly recommend checking out her Instagram. And she came to Scale Your Side Hustle because she was launching some digital products and she wanted support, and she had done her Instagram really well, but she wanted help building out the back end. And as Danielle said, during the program, I had unwavering support through a successful product launch, and completing the program, I have doubled my email list subscribers and monthly income. It gave me the discipline to work diligently on a different part of my business every week and the knowledge and tools I needed to scale upwards in ways I hadn't even thought of before. The group of motivated, like-minded women made me look forward to our weekly calls, not to mention they were total boss babes who pushed me to a better version of myself. I highly recommend this program, and you will make your investment back. I cannot thank you enough, Leah. So Danielle had a really successful time in Scale Your Side Hustle, and that is the kind of results you can expect as well. The 3 pillars of this program are the weekly calls with me, the private Facebook group, and our weekly modules as well. And I'm not going to introduce myself because you guys know who I am, but the possibilities you can have from this are to create a side hustle that's completely your own. So you don't have to work for someone else's dream anymore. You can totally change your financial potential. I mean, really, when you implement the tools in this, and when you really dedicate yourself to growing this, then you truly have an unlimited income ceiling. There's no limit to how much you can make. You also will learn how to sell with confidence and ease, so you can not worry about being salesy. You can actually impact the lives of others. Remember, you guys, your side hustle isn't just about you. It's also about the people that end up buying from you. You can make thousands of dollars a month, even around your 9-to-5 job. You'll be part of a community, and it's really about designing your whole life, not just a business. We have another success story here from Tanya. She joined Scale Your Side Hustle less than a year ago, and she blew through it. And today she was able to leave her, not today, but a little while ago, she was able to resign from her $80,000 per year job to totally work for herself, thanks to everything she learned in Scale Your Side Hustle and beyond. Here are the 9 modules of the program. There is your success mindset, success practices, your side business blueprint, your website, your email list, using Pinterest, using Facebook, and your products and services. There's more details on that. We have another success story from Ines, who also joined Scale Your Side Hustle last year, and she just got back from 6 months traveling full-time in South America while she worked on her business. And that is what you can expect. So you can join Scale Your Side Hustle today for only $600 or $647. And it starts next week. And again, this is the last time we're running it ever, you guys. So if you have this on your heart, if you want to be part of Scale Your Side Hustle, if you want to be something totally life-changing, then this is your chance. And we're also giving you over $500 worth of bonuses that will really set you up for success totally for free. So this includes my e-course, the $5,000 Side Hustle Month course, which really just breaks down the different pricing models and sales strategies for hitting that exact number. You also will get a case study from one of Scale Your Side Hustle's most successful alumni, who walks through exactly what she did in Scale Your Side Hustle every single week to start making over $1,000 in just 8 weeks into the program. And she started with no business, so you really don't need it to start. And if you're wondering, what exactly should I be implementing and focusing on, then that is for you. And that's a $250 value that she made for us, but you get it completely for free. And you'll also get a copy of my highest performing opt-in of all time, which again, this has grown my list by the thousands. So getting this for free is huge. Another success story is Drew, who is a virtual assistant extraordinaire. He's amazing. And he tripled his income while he was in Scale Your Side Hustle, just in a matter of months. Scale Your Side Hustle is so powerful because of the combination of your direct mentorship from me and your accountability from me, someone who's been there, who's done that. I built all of my business around my 9-to-5 job. And then you also have the whole community. So you're not in this alone, and you'll learn more from them than you can even imagine. And from there, I have more success stories, but without going on too long, I'm going to wrap it up there and just let you guys know you can check out Scale Your Side Hustle on my website, also on my Instagram bio, and also right below this video. But no matter what, I hope you guys found this podcast episode hugely helpful, and I hope you have an amazing week. And I'm always cheering for you guys and your vision and your business goals. I know you can do this, and it's here for the taking. All right, visionaries, I'll talk to you later.